Did it take a hurricane to do a needed review of these types of facilities? Let's get some insight on who was lost and what it was like inside this nursing home. We have Jean Johnson with us. She visited her friend Betty Hibbard at the nursing home just this past Tuesday night. She was with Betty the next day in the hospital when she wound up passing away. Jean, thank you so much for joining us. We're really sorry that you lost your friend.
Good morning. Yes, we went by to see her the day before she passed away. We was there between 4:30 to 6 o'clock because we thought we'd run by and see her how she fared through the hurricane before we went to dinner. Anyway, when I walked in the room, walked down the hall, it was terribly hot, and there was gentlemen with their legs off, and they'd lost their legs and different things, and it was so. So then I said, "Is the elevator working?" Yeah, the elevator was working. So I've been there sometimes when it didn't. Anyway, the elevator was working, so we went upstairs, and I went in Betty's room. She wasn't in there, and it was so hot. Where is she? And anyway, it went down the hall. They did have her sitting in front of a fan, blower like, as they did downstairs. Many of the people sit in front of blowers. But she was sitting in front of a blower, and she almost cried. She says, "Jean, I can't breathe. I can't breathe." I said, "Honey, please don't talk." I said, "Okay." And I said to the lady, "Can you get me some ice?" And she says, "We don't have any ice." So then Betty says, "I got to go to the bathroom." So this lady came by, and one of the nurses, aides came by and took Betty. And I said, "Don't you need to take her oxygen with her?" And the lady just ignored me and took her to the bathroom. Betty walked to the bathroom herself. And so I went in, and the lady came back out without Betty, so I went in to see, was Betty okay? And Betty's sitting on just outside the bathroom door. She says, "Jean, I can't breathe." She says, and I started to go get her wheelchair. She says, "Don't leave me." I said, "I have to get your wheelchair." So I got her wheelchair, took her back, got her in the wheelchair, got her back to the bed, and I says, because sometimes I carry little goodies. So I took her a Coke, and I asked the lady, nurse, could she have it? She said yes. So it was a cold Coke from my refrigerator. Betty was so delighted to have the Coke. And Betty and I have been friends for many years, and of course we all just went through the hurricane. My hair looked horrible, and I had a little hat on. She told me, Betty says, "You look horrible." And I thought, well, I'll really show her. So I took my hat off. And she says, "Put the hat back on, you look horrible." And so anyway, we laughed, and she couldn't hardly talk, so I said, "Look, honey, we're going to leave because I don't want you talking because you've got to save your oxygen." But yes, sir, it was hot in there. I mean, there's no two ways about it. All up and down the hall, they had blowers, and, but it was no air conditioning. And this was, and then anyway, this was day before yesterday. And then at 4 o'clock yesterday morning, I get a call that Betty's in the hospital. Thank God, I have to say the hospital was doing their best. They had a tube down her. They was trying to get her resuscitation, because she has no resuscitation. So they were doing their best, the hospital was, but she was gone when I got there, actually. Not really, but she wasn't talking or anything. And of course, she passed away yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So, but I knew lots of the people there.
Jean.
Used to go there and have dinner with them, and so I knew many of the people that live there. And it's so sad. What a price to pay. What a terrible price to pay.
Jean, the tender mercies that you're describing, spending the time, giving her a Coke, that'll seem small to people, but it's not when you're in a situation like that. And what a blessing to have you in her life, visiting and being there with her, especially in the days that wound up being so close to the end. Before we get into the place, let's talk about the person just for a second. Who did we lose in Betty Hibbard?
A caring person, a loving person, a trusting person. We worked together for 40 years, and I had an office, a real estate office, and when I could go away on vacation, I knew I left it in good hands I never seen a person more dedicated than Betty Hibbard was to her work, because she lost most of her family at that time. She's lost it all now, but at that time she didn't have much family. So her work was her life. She helped me with health fairs in the city of Hollywood. Betty was always there if I needed something, and of course Betty was a little on the heavy side, but she she kept reminding me that I was putting on weight, and I should be. She said, you should be going over and doing exercise and watching your weight. And I said, well, what about you? She said, that's different. So that's the answer that I got, is that was different. So, but Betty was absolutely a caring person.
So we know now that we lost somebody special who you feel deserved better. And how do you feel about how that place was being run?
I hate to sit in judgment. I really don't know hardly what to say, because I go in and I made sure that Betty got a haircut and get a permanent. If the other residents needed something, I would bring it to the nurse's attention, and I'd follow her up. If they didn't do it in the next week, I'd follow her up again. And Betty had a hearing problem, so Judy, I think is her name was. I know her name, but this morning, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Anyway, we was able to get Betty a television with captions on it. And I told Betty, she says, you bought that for me? I says, no, you bought it yourself, because the facility takes all her Social Security, but I think they give her, it's either $90 or $100 that they give her, the residents, a month. And I said, no, Betty, it was your own money that bought it. Betty says, I bought that? She says, is that really my television? Because Betty never wanted to be a liability. Betty never wanted to be a liability to anyone. I visit a lot of people in different nursing homes, and I have to say Betty is one of the few that I leave laughing, because she inevitably comes up with something to make you laugh. She had a great sense of humor under the worst of circumstances, because she says, I know I have to be here. The first couple of weeks, so she wasn't too sure she had to be there, and she wanted to come home just like anybody. But after a couple of weeks, I think she's been here 2.5 years. But now she was perfectly happy with a little popcorn, a few little goodies, once a week, twice a week, we was passing by. That made her happy.